Hey guys, so let's take a look at GitHub. This is going to be Lab 2. You're going to have to create a new account, and then I'm going to show you how to use the Codespaces. So let's go ahead and click Sign Up. We are going to put in our email. You can use whatever email you want, but I suggest your school email. That would be the easiest. And we got to create a password. So, all right. All right. Continue and enter a username. All right. Continue. All right, it wants to verify my account. So first things first, I should probably plug my computer in. And it wants to make sure we're a real person. So let's verify. I need to make the object face the direction that the fingers are pointing. So I think that means this. All right, enter a code. It sent it to my email address. So let me come over here. Let me grab that. I'm just going to copy it and come back over here. I'm going to paste it in. All right, cool. So I'm not going to worry about any of this for now. I'm just trying to create something quick for me to use. If you want to click student and go through all that, feel free. I think this is the simplest way to do it. We're going to leave all of this over here blank, and we're just going to continue. We're going to choose the free version, so continue for free. And all of a sudden, here we are. We've got a GitHub account. Great. So your GitHub account is sort of like, imagine it being a big file cabinet, and each one of your programs or projects is a different file in there. All right. So in order to do that, we have to create this sort of file, but in this situation, it's not really a file. It's called a repository. And that's where we're going to store any files that have to do with a certain scenario. Maybe it's a project, maybe it's something like that. But for us, it's going to be for this class. So let's put in CTI 110. And we are going to need to make ours a public repository. Don't worry, you won't be putting any personal information in here. All right. So first things first, I need to go ahead and put at least one file in here. All right. So in order to do that, you guys are going to be putting the program that you made in Lab 1 inside of your GitHub. So what I'll be doing for my file, you'll be doing for the Lab 1 Python file that you have. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click upload an existing file, and I'm going to click here, choose your files, and I'm just going to find any one of my Python files. All right, I'm going to use this test.py. I'm going to click OK, and you can see right here that it's going to upload test.py, but it is not done yet. Okay, it's not up there yet. You have to click this green button that says commit changes, or the file's not going to go into your repository. So I'm going to just put a quick comment over here. If you were using this in its full capacity, you would be having different versions of the same file. So you'd like work on a file, have a new version that's updated, and then you'd commit that, right? So every time you work on something, you would commit your new changes, but we're not going to use it like that. We're just going to store our Python files here. So we can just leave it as it is, and it'll say add files via upload. And I'm going to click that green button that says commit changes. All right. It is mad about something. Let me try that process again. Let's click the files. Here we go. All right. And then I click commit changes. There we go. Don't know what that was about. All right. Awesome. So what's happening now is we have this test.py file. It's inside of our CTI 110 repository, which is inside of our GitHub account. So what we can do now is we can click on this file and look at this. You can see the code right over here inside of your repository. And to go back out from this file back to the repository, you click here. If you want to go back all the way to the home page, you click here. Okay. Then if I want to go back into my repository, well, here it is. I can click it here. All right. I'm going to add a README file. You should do the same. All this is a super simple file that's going to say what this repository is about. So let's say this is going to hold all of our Python files for CTI 110, Introduction to Programming. And if you want to put more in here about yourself or anything else, feel free. I'm going to click Commit Changes because remember, until you commit the changes, they do not exist in the repository. So let me click Commit Changes. And now I have the README file and my Python file in there. All right, now let's talk about how to use these code spaces. Code spaces are nothing more than a code editor that you can whip up on the fly like a virtual machine. So it's a virtual code editor that you can create to work on your code and then commit your code directly to your GitHub repository. All right, so instead of having to go through this whole process, so say I came back over here, I went away for a bit and I came back into my repository and I wanted to upload a new file. I would click on Add File and I would click Upload Files. All right, and that would be a file that I already had on my computer. If I want to actually come in here and do my coding within GitHub in the code space, I come over here and click this green button. I click the tab that says Codespaces. If it's your first time coming here, you'll click Create Codespace on Main. If you've already done this process before, the same codespace will be there. It'll have some funky random name because GitHub just gives it some funny name if you don't name it yourself. So you'll just click on whatever codespace you already have open. All right, so let's say I want to add a new Python file. I'm going to click this right here, this new file button. If I had a file in here already and I wanted to edit it, I could just click on it right here and just click test.py and it pops up. Just like we had to do in the Visual Studio Code, you have to install this Python extension before you can run any Python code inside of this code space. So if you're over there in your Python and you're typing up some code and you don't see a little arrow up here to run it, it's because you haven't installed this Python extension yet. And until you install the extension, Python doesn't have the ability to run it. So now when I've done the extension, I see this arrow, I can click this arrow, and it's going to run my code for me. All right, so very similar terminal to the VS Code situation. If I want to do a new file, I click this little piece of paper with a plus sign. I name my file. I am going to type the py file extension this time and press enter. So here's my file. I'm in the new file. And I can go ahead and print hello world. And I can go ahead and run that. And once I run it, it prints out. So now I want to save both of these changes. Okay, the changes are not automatically saved in GitHub. You need to click on these little source control button over here. And it's going to say, hey, guess what? You got some changes. You changed this file right here. You added it. You need to commit it. You must put something in this message box or it's not going to work. It's just going to keep loading and loading and loading, and it's eventually going to time out and it's going to fail. You have to put a message in here. So let's say I am uploading this file. All right. Click commit. Always click yes. And then you must click sync changes and OK. I know the process seems a little daunting. There's a lot of steps to it, but once you do it a couple times, you'll get used to it. All right. If this message pops up, click yes. That's going to make sure that your files over here are up to date, all right, with what you have in your repository. So this actually can be helpful because you don't have to download any software on your computer to use this. I just did this all through GitHub. Also, you can commit your files directly into your GitHub account when you're done. That way you don't have to come back later and manually upload them one by one. Alrighty guys, so if we want to exit the code space, what we need to do is click down here on this little blue tab at the bottom left corner. It says code space. Click it and some options are going to pop up right here. All right, we want to go to my code spaces. That gets you out of the current code space that you're in and takes you to a page here where you can manage all of your code spaces. All right, remember this is the name of our code space down here. It is currently active. All right, so from here, we can go back to home by clicking this little cat icon. All right, then from there, I can come back into my repository. I can click this green button. Now, instead of telling me to start a new code space, it has my code space I've already started. So I can click here and I will be right back in. All right, these only last, I believe, for 30 days. So after 30 days, it's going to get rid of your code space. All right, you can whip another one right up, no problem, for free. It's not going to charge you or anything. But make sure that any work that you may have had in this code space, that you've committed it to your repository, aka saved your work. All right, so remember, we could click here. We can come back up here. I'll go to my code spaces. See what else we got here. All right, and then I could come back to home.